Hello, today we're going to look at how we can use the ZBD Rewards Events SDK in your Unity, Android and iOS application. The point of this tutorial will be to show you how you can download the SDK, import it into Unity and make a very simple game that will reward sats to a user based on a game event. We're going to look at the basic functions. There are some more advanced functions, but with the basics functions, you should be able to make a fully fledged rewards game straight away. So the first thing we're going to do is download the SDK. So in order to get access to this SDK, because it is in beta at the moment, you'll get a link from your account manager. But I'm just going to download it here. The link they give you should be to this Unity page. So I'm going to grab it here and just download version 0.6. Now I'm going to make a new Unity project. So I'm using Unity 6 here. Let's just call it SDK test. And once my project has finished opening, the first thing I'm going to do is switch platform. So for this demo, I'm going to just switch to Android. And whilst we are here, we also want to just head to player settings and make sure that our minimum API level is Android 10. The SDK needs to have this level set, and also it's just good practice to set at least this level because Android introduced a lot of security features from 10, and if you use anything below that, your game is going to be a lot more prone to being hacked. Anyway, once those things are in place, we can now just simply import the SDK. So I'm going to go to Assets, Import Package, and just grab that package here. Just click Import. Now we want to enable the Android Auto resolution. So the SDK does require some external Android libraries. We use the external dependency manager to hopefully mean it won't interfere with any other packages you're installing. There's always a chance with Unity and SDKs that you have some conflict. So if that happens, we do have a troubleshooting section, or reach out to us and we can help you. But hopefully it should all run smoothly. We got a failed there, but let's just ignore it for now. Hopefully when we build it, it should fix itself. So next we want to go to the ZBD folder here. We want to go to prefabs and just drag the ZBD SDK prefab there. And we want to set debug to true, just as we're developing, it'll give some more information. And also we want to add the app ID. So you should receive an app ID by your account manager. Just for testing purposes, we can use the app ID in this documentation here. So if we head to this section here, yeah, we can just grab this one. Great. Now if we just head back to the documentation, basically the first thing we have to do is we have to initialize the SDK. And the recommended way to do this is to call the init function. And once the SDK has initialized, we can call the sign-up function. So all this is done without any user interaction. What this basically does initially in the SDK, we'll do a few things. It'll check that the ZBD SDK is available for the user's region. So if this user is detected to be in a country we don't support, it will return uh, an error. And then we want to sign them up straight away. That way you can start to send them rewards once that function is complete. You can choose to init without the sign up and get them to sign up later. There's a couple of ways to do this. One way is the ZBD SDK has a modal that is shown, which we'll talk about in a bit, and they can actually sign up through that modal, but we feel it's just smoother to sign them up automatically. So I'm basically just going to copy and paste this function here. Well, before I do that, I need to make a controller. So let me create an empty game object, just call it controller. And this is going to be a very basic game. It's basically going to be a press the button game. And let me just call it game controller. I'm just going to open this up in my IDE. And let's put this in our start function. Let's close that for now. Here we're getting this doesn't exist, so we just need to import. Let's just type here using ZBD, and that should work. Just one more bit of housekeeping. It's probably a good idea to install logcat so we can see logs from the Android device. So we want to go to, hold on, go back to Package Manager and search for logcat here. So the SDK only functions on the device. So when we test it, we do have to make a build to the device. The reason for this is one of the security aspects of the SDK is we validate that the device is actually an Android device, which means the SDK won't function on anything that isn't an Android device or an iOS device. Let's just go make sure we add that to our toolbar here. Okay, great. So now we've got a controller that will initialize the SDK. One smaller thing about the init function, you can pass a user ID to this. So a user ID would be, your basically your internal ID you have for the player. So it could be the device ID or just your PlayFab ID. You can pass that as well. It doesn't really do too much at the moment, but it is useful for us so we can link our ID with your player's ID, which has some implications for stuff like pip and things like that. You can pass this at another time with a different function. I believe it's ZBD controller.instance.set user ID, but you can also just do it on the initialization if you have it ready. Anyway, so once we signed up, let's just add a bit of UI UX to this game now. So I'm just going to make a canvas. So yeah, if I just make the button, it should make the canvas automatically. Yep, there we go. Let's import Text Mesh Pro. Let's just call this withdraw. Make it a little bit bigger. Not that big. Let's just put this in the top corner here. let's duplicate this button now. Let's just call this button send rewards. So this is going to be the game. The user presses the button to send them rewards. Very basic game, but the SDK is very simple to use, and this is all we need to do to show you how to use it. Send one reward. And let's add a label that we can use to show the balance. Okay, so we have a label here which will show the balance. This could be the number of sats that the user has earned. A button withdraw. This is the button that will open the ZBD modal, where the user can do some other things, like they can set their ZBD gamertag username, and they can also withdraw. And we also have a button to send a reward to the user. So next step is we want to plug all this in. So if we go back to our game controller, let's just add these objects here. So game object. So we've got the call to action button. We've got the rewards button. Got the, let's call it the balance label. The first thing I actually probably want to do is I probably just want to hide all the Bitcoin UI. Public void. The reason being is we don't want to show this if the SDK doesn't initialize. So for example, say that the SDK is not available in, I don't know, country. Let's pick on a country. It's not available in Latvia for whatever reason. Or you haven't. So this could be for two reasons. One is you've chosen not to allow Latvians to download the app and play for Bitcoin, but somebody in Latvia gets their hands on it, or it's in a region we actually don't support, such as New York State in the US. So you probably want to hide all the Bitcoin related features, and then once the SDK initializes successfully, then you choose to show it. That's what we're going to do here. So very simple, just set active here. We go. And on awake, let's just hide everything. And when the SDK and sign-in has completed, we can show everything. Let's just, before I forget, let's just hook everything up. So let's add this to a CTA button, the send rewards button, and the balance label. Let's just make this anchor there. Okay. Now we actually want to send rewards. This is a very simple function. So obviously this wouldn't be just for a button press. This could be in your game, the player gets a coin or they defeat a boss. You'd call this function. And let's just head back to documentation. So we have initialized. And if we go to the send reward, here we go. We can just copy and paste this. And this will send a reward of 1. So what does 1 mean here? So this actually depends on how your project is set up. you need to discuss this with your account manager, but you're sending a reward unit, and a unit can represent one unit could be 1 sat, or one unit could be 10 cents in dollars. So that will be however many sats 10 cents is worth at the time of sending. So you need to make sure you understand what you're actually sending. I believe in this demo it's going to be one unit is a few cents, so it sends maybe 10 sats, something like that. Yeah, but it's perfectly possible to make it 1-to-1. So we also want to be able to get the balance. So here, if we have get balance, let's copy this. Again, a very simple function. Let's make a function here. So this can probably just be private. So once the reward has been sent, we want to get the balance. And we can set the text. We can set the amount to our balance label. And let's just call get balance as well once the SDK has initialized. So basically, when the player downloads for the first time, if they already, well, not for the first time, they open the app again, if they already have a balance, it will populate and show them the balance in that label we set. Then when you send one reward, once that's complete, we can get the balance again, and it will update the label accordingly. I think that's pretty much everything we need just for now. So let's just hook these functions up. Oh, I did forget one thing. We need to be able to show the modal. Make a function called show modal. And this is so simple, I don't even need to copy and paste it. ZBD modal controller.instance.show modal. And this is in the documentation here. Let's wait for Unity to finish recompiling, whatever it does here. And let's just add the functions to this button. So this call to action, this withdraw, we want to show modal. Send rewards, we want to send rewards. I think everything should be hooked up. So now we actually can try and build it. So I'm just going to go to build and run. And let's see what errors we get. We shouldn't get any errors, but I did notice the Android dependency didn't complete. So let's see if it completes this time. Just yes to this. So now we have successfully built with no errors. We can see here, it's showing my balance here. I've already got some balance because I was testing it before. If I click on the withdraw button, that loads the modal. And this is customizable. You have to talk to your account manager on how to customize it. But it's showing me to download the ZBD app if I don't already have it, and then to enter my gamer tag. So I'll enter my gamer tag here. And the user will press this to link their gamer tag. And now they're able to withdraw. As you can see here, my current balance is 181. If I send a reward, it's gone up to 186. As I mentioned before, one reward unit for this app is like a few cents. Go back to withdraw, I can see my balance here. But if you notice, it says available to withdraw 44 sats. So I can only withdraw 44 sats at this time. And the reason for that is this is a security measure. The issue with giving sats for events is a player will use various techniques to kind of hack the events or give them access to the events instantly. How we mitigate this at ZBD is the user can only withdraw a certain amount. So if a player hacks a game to give themselves, I don't know, 1,000,000 sats, they won't be able to withdraw 1,000,000 sats right away. They'll only be able to withdraw, I don't know, 10, 0. This is configurable how much they're able to withdraw from first playing the game. The good thing about this is that the user can't hack the game, but you can give them a few sats instantly. So it's great for players who download the game and they get that experience of getting Bitcoin literally instantly. And it also stops players who are trying to cheat and try to, take an economically large amount of Bitcoin out too early because they will be limited. This withdrawal limit will increase. So if we go back to our logcat here, we should see a message be shown in a few seconds. There we go. We see a message here, progress payload. So what the SDK is doing every 5 seconds or so, it's actually just pinging the server and saying, hey, this device is online. It's a real device. And the longer this device is online, the more the withdrawal amount will increase. So if I go back, yeah, it's already increased by 2 sats here. So that basically means it adds a lot of security because if a player wants to try and steal a lot of sats, they basically they have to have a physical device which is online pinging our server. So the most they can do in a day is like a few cents. So it kind of breaks the economic incentive for them to kind of cheat, and it also stops bot farms or server farms spinning up thousands of fake devices because our SDK will detect if the device is real and that the device is online and actively pinging the server. So that's basically it. It's very, very simple. You really only have 2 functions to call. One is send reward, get balance. Sorry, 3 functions and show the modal there. And then you can choose to add rewards to whatever event makes sense in your game. Just talk about a few other functions that you might find useful. So I mentioned that there is a limit to how much the user can withdraw at any one time. You can actually find this limit from the get balance callback. So if you call get balance, we should be able to. You can log out the callback dot withdrawal limit here. You might want to do this because if the user's withdrawal limit is 0, you might want to check that before sending them some rewards. It's up to you, but there might be no point in giving them like 1,000 rewards if they're only able to withdraw 2. So you might want to wait. It's up to you. You really have to play around to find the right balance for your game. As noted here, the balance and the withdrawal limit is in sats, not msats. A lot of our documentation references msats. That's just because how the Lightning Network works. The lowest value you can send is a msat, which is 1,000th of a sat. But for this SDK, we've just changed it to sats just to make it that bit easier because at the moment you can't actually send msats. It's just a protocol hangover type of thing. That's an important thing to mention if you have used our SDK before. In a new SDK, I'm showing in sats. And that's about it. There are some advanced features that I'll talk about in a follow-up video, but hopefully that's all you need to get started. I showed for Android, but the process is pretty much the same for iOS. If you do have any issues in the documentation, there's a section building for iOS, which can help you with any specific issues. Well, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.